Hello, everyone, and welcome. It's been long overdue, long silence, absence, all of those things, but here I am again to finally do another update and one to close out the year, no less, since, well, it's about the end of the year, so here I am to finally get this done. Wow, yes, as I keep bringing it up, it's definitely been a while, but I'm here, I'm back, I'm doing pretty decent, and I'm ready to do this and ready to close out the year. Got all glammed up for this occasion, uh, everything. Yeah, just, wow, it's been a while, but just happy to be back doing these and just happy to just keep being joyous and express it and spreading the positivity. So, I guess that's enough beating around the bush. I guess I should probably just get right into it. As I said in the past couple of videos, or past videos, that this one is going to be a little bit more different. I wanted to change things up by doing a little bit more of a visual, in-depth breakdown to really show you guys just how much my body has changed, not just this past month, but really just these past almost 2.5 years. Like, wow, it's almost been 2.5 years that I've been on this journey, hormones, transitioning, and everything. It's been, wow, almost been that long, and I have definitely grown and changed a lot during that time, and I will definitely continue to grow and change a lot to, in the next 2.5 years, and the two after that, and so on and so forth. But right now, it's about 2.5 years, and feel I have a lot to show and say. But before I get into any of that, I do have to start with the psych stuff. So, kind of kicking off with that. So these past couple of months have definitely been something. Definitely a lot of highs, lows, backs, forth, and everything like that. Just so much going on between personal projects, school, the movie, work, and just my physical and mental health pertaining to my condition, and just resting and recovering, and just trying to get better with that. There's definitely been a lot going on, and like I said, just highs and lows throughout all of that. But all around, I definitely been feeling myself just, continuing with my hormones and just continuing with my growing physical and emotional journey. I definitely been feeling that I've been getting, despite all of the highs and lows in the back and just curveballs and everything like that, I definitely been feeling like I've been getting better just more and more each day. And I can certainly say as a whole right now that despite everything and all that's happened, like, I am definitely still feeling super upbeat as usual, and even more just in light of certain things that have happened, and just how much I've grown, and just in terms of just my transition and just expressing myself and just my all around just mental health and well-being. I'm definitely feeling great, if not better than before, and that's I'm it's just, yeah, I'm really good in that regard for the most part. So yeah, but now I gotta get down to that physical breakdown. But for that, I am gonna need to change. So if you'll excuse me, just gonna. So here I am. As you can see, I've dressed down a little bit more to something that allows you to just get a better idea of just my whole figure and just my whole body and just how much that changed. So, like I said, I'm gonna just break down from head to toe just all of the different sort of changes, and using different comparison images and whatnot to kind of just help better illustrate just all of the different changes and whatnot. So, kind of as you can generally see, this is pretty much how much I've grown and changed over the past 2+ years. Definitely, if I were to compare something to like the beginning of my transition, which yeah, you definitely kind of see a lot more of that night and day difference between just how much more how much more my overall appearance has feminized more, especially in all the more key areas like my hair, my overall sort of physical outlook. I'm definitely more thinner, more curvier in certain places, and definitely just have more of a sort of, I guess you could say, more of a smoother feminine glow to my overall overall appearance. But getting more to the specifics, I guess I'll start from my head and just kind of make my way all the way down to the bottom. So starting with my hair, um, as you can see, kind of at a glance, I probably should get just a wee bit closer. But as you can see, sort of at a kind of glance, that it's definitely a lot noticeably different than how it was from the beginning. So kind of, again, going back to the wind the clocks back away to the beginning, my hair, and it's very not, very naturally, it's very short. It was very short, curly, and definitely sort of, though it had that sort of full look, it was definitely kind of finishing in that typical like sort of male pattern baldness that kind of runs very rampant in my family. And though I definitely didn't get the worst of it out of many of my family members, especially my brothers, it definitely was something that I was experiencing and definitely was very dysphoric about towards the beginning of my transition, because it's like, well, I definitely did want to have a more sort of fuller look like this, or at least something kind of like that back then. And, and a big part of that was the sort of my hairline and how back then it's just sort of had that very sort of like, again, you had that sort of like very typical like male pattern baldness thing, and despite how much my hair was growing out little by little and how much I was trying to be able to style it and express it in the ways that I wanted to, I definitely just didn't really feel like I had that full look because of just how much I was still missing in the places, towards the front where it sort of mattered. But over time, with hormones and with also proper, hair care as well, because you've got to take care of that as well as letting the hormones do their thing. Um, and again, even this isn't my natural hair. Like, my hair is still very curly, as you can kind of see here. But even again, after a lot of after hormones and just a lot of proper care, my hair is definitely a lot more fuller, definitely a lot more definitely a lot more longer, and just definitely a lot more healthier looking in general. And even now, seeing it straightened and styled, it's like, again, you can kind of see that it's just that difference is sort of night and day of just it's more fuller, healthier, stronger, and my hairline is pretty much mostly repaired itself to the point that it has that more fuller look. To again, you wouldn't really notice that, hey, this is what it was like at the beginning versus how it is now, and just how much it's all overall grown back out, grown and grown more ever more since. Um, and I guess that kind of just breaks me down, I guess, to just the overall sort of body hair thing, sort of thing as well. So again, towards the beginning, I definitely had more of that sort of male, kind of again, sort of male typical hair pattern. And though that's still very much present here, a lot of that hair and growth has definitely slowed down and definitely thinned out more and more over time, to where, though I still do get growth in all of these different areas, hairs are definitely a lot more thinner and definitely a lot more noticeable to the eye than than versus like in the beginning, when after a day or two, there would already be aggressive signs of regrowth and just those very very thick coarse hairs that were typically that's very typical of I guess you could say a more typical masculine male body. Whereas here it's like, though I still do growth, a lot of that hair has reduced in overall size, and I guess and just feel, to the point that, like, though it's there, it's definitely a lot more smoother, and in many places it's definitely a lot more harder to gland, definitely more harder to gland at. Um, so that's pretty much something. So that's kind of how that's changed. It's not really something that I can illustrate too well on camera because, again, light and everything. But again, I mean, you take my word for it. It's like I, yeah. I mean, I pretty much It also probably doesn't help that I do regular skincare moisturizing, and then I also do fully shave everything, because that's just how I am. I try to have that more. I just kind of like to have that very like smoothest feel possible for my skin. So just that's just how it is for me. But I can definitely say that reduction that's definitely been a lot. Definitely had a lot more heavy reduction. Although, unlike my head hair, which has had significantly massive changes, like pretty much my hairline and everything repairing from the beginning to now. Again, those patterns are still the same. It's just they grow less. It's just that the overall look, feel, and thickness of everything is just significantly reduced to the point to just a more, I guess you could say, feminine quality versus a more typical masculine one. Going off of that also kind of brings me to sort of my facial hair as well. I did have laser hair removal very early on in my transition. I started well before I started taking hormones, which is honestly what is recommended by them and recommended by many other trans people in the community as well. Because of typically how HRT works is that it does make those hair follicles thinner and less noticeable, but it doesn't completely eradicate that pattern. Like, that hair, that's still going to be there. It's just going to be less noticeable. So they do recommend laser hair removal ahead of time, which is what I did. So for me, as well as the hormones, after going from the beginning, prior to hormones and prior to laser hair removal, this is kind of what my face looked more like, versus kind of what I got going on more now, which is, again, that's sort of a very night and day difference. I mean, I'm willing to admit it's like, though you look very closely toward kind of at my skin, you will notice that there is some semblance of that. It's like some still semblance of that there, but but I can confidently tell you that though a lot of some of that still does grow back, still does kind of have that typical that pattern of growing back. Those hairs are so thin and so not noticeable that again I only really notice them because of just how much I take, just of all the routine stuff that I do take relating to my skin and everything. But really, for anybody else, that's not really something that they would notice. So that different as night and day. But then there's also all the changes that I went through with my face as well. Again, sort of thin that bigger. I definitely had that more sort of whiter, fuller, more kind of I guess that's sort of like more kind of oval rounded shape, kind of more oval rounded shaped because I definitely was a bit more of a slightly larger and more hefty and slightly more I guess heftier individual prior to that. And I also did have a large, and I also I guess did have a large muscle mass as well. But over time, my face has definitely noticeably changed more and more over time between kind of thinning out to a more feminine state, but also still rounding on the places that matter, kind of around certain edges. My cheeks are definitely more fatter and kind of fuller. My eyes have definitely sort of kind of rounded out to look a little bit more large. To definitely, I guess, look a little bit more larger, rounder, and just kind of more feminine around the skin as well is definitely just more smoother and softer to the touch, not just around my face, but as well as my whole body. And yeah, kind of going to my kind of my skin as a whole. That sort of night and day thing. Back prior to hormones, I definitely had a slightly darker complexion. That's kind of like the funny thing with how it is with my body is that me being biracial, I have a very like light-ish but still very ambiguous skin tone. That tends to like shift in shade depending on the time of year and my overall kind of exposure to like sunlight elements and all of those different things. But generally, I've always had this sort of very like sort of kind of like darker tone to my skin, and over time on hormones, I definitely noticed that on top of just kind of having a more smoother feel and glow and look to my overall skin, it's definitely gotten a little bit more lighter and just kind of softer in tone and a little bit more softer in tone where it's like, yeah, I still do have that very lightest noticeable, you have that very slightly noticeable, kind of shade to my skin. It's definitely a lot more lighter, surprisingly somehow more lighter now than it was before. And I will again also a number of things considering that I am a bit of an introvert and I do spend a good chunk of my time indoors. That also could be a factor into it as well. But I can generally say that as far as my overall skin goes, there have definitely been a large noticeable amount of changes in not only just the look and feel, but just that overall sort of just like I definitely feel more comfortable and at home in my own skin because it actually feels very it feels feminine and doesn't have that more just masculineness to it, if that makes any sense. If whatever, I mean, I'm talking like skin here. That sounds just so weird, just me to phrase that to light. But I hope that makes sense in some way. Moving on to I guess the more overall kind of qualities of my body. Again, sort of you kind of can see generally differences kind of like night and day of just between hormones, weight, fluctuating weight loss. Over the years prior to hormones, it's like my weight loss has been kind of a fluctuating thing, going up and down, and definitely kind of more towards in my 20s. But prior to transitioning, I definitely has kind of been more of that higher sort of place. And definitely had this more sort of, and I definitely kind of felt like I had this more sort of beefier build, which is just kind of how my body was for a while because with taking hormones and me trying to make modifications and changes to my health, though there was progress, it generally was just like though my body was changing, it wasn't really in like the massive kind of ways that I hoped, at least at first in that first year. But with hormones as well as good health, dietary and other health related habits, not only has my body noticeably more feminized, and like my arms and my legs and even my torso, you can clearly say that I definitely do have a little bit more definitely do have a bit more curviness around towards my midsection, as well around my midsection, and even kind of with my legs. They're just thinned out. It's not only is my body overall kind of thinned out just as a whole with weight loss and fat redistribution, reproportioning everything to that just more feminine physique. So not only has, my body over time, down, obviously, clearly kind of went more from that slightly, beefier build to the kind of more, I guess, slightly less beefier, and I guess more, I guess you could say kind of more average-ish to, I guess you could say, a more average-ish type of physical build just over all of that time. And the changes to just my overall physique, just getting that more, again, curvy, more of that curviness in my midsection, and even just kind of, and just that more thinness kind of around, like, even, notice, like, around my wrists, my ankles, everything just, I definitely just don't kind of feel as big and burly as I was before. I definitely kind of feel, not only do I just kind of have more of that comfortability in my skin, but I just feel like I just fit and breathe better in clothes and just various other attire and expression. And yeah, I could definitely say that from the beginning with trying out like feminine clothing versus now that kind of fitting me more naturally with the slipper, with how much my body has changed and just kind of how much more comfortable I've gotten with wearing a lot of that kinds of clothing. It's just like it's been perfect, and just all the different ways that I can express myself, just feeling more at home in my skin. But moving on to, I guess, fat redistribution and kind of going on more key areas of physical development. Again, kind of with fat redistribution, again, I noticed, as I mentioned before, I kind of do feel I have more of a fuller roundness in my face versus, then and now, with just more fullness and roundness in the cheeks and just kind of more reduction in just more different areas. So just kind of give me that more sort of circular, rounder, softer facial look, but at the same time, I'm still, it's familiar, but it's different. And then, of course, moving on to my chest, obviously, that's another, from the very beginning, with starting hormones, there's one of the first things that you'll notice is like very immense soreness, tenderness in your chest because of breast development. And though that sounds like an absolutely amazing thing, and don't get me wrong, it absolutely is. It is probably one of the few things with hormones that takes the utmost amount of time, because even after pretty much 2+ years of HRT, this is pretty much still pretty much entirely what I'm working with here. Though you can definitely tell that there has been some growth and some development here over time. I definitely got something going on here, as I've been saying many, many times in my past videos. Though there is that that tissue has built up in everything, and I do have breast. There is a mass here. It is still very small and still very much growing and developing, and still very much soft and tender to the touch. Though it's not very much. It's definitely around nipple, and just kind of that sort of overall general area is still a very sore and tender spot, especially some days more than others. And that really is because it is a constant growing sort of everyday kind of thing. After all this time that I have gotten results, and it definitely shows more with, wearing certain clothing like tank tops, or even with wearing bras now. It's I definitely can feel and notice and really even just see now more than ever just how much my body has changed in that regard, and how much of that development I've been getting. Again, even after 2 years, that's still really all the progress. That's really kind of, but here's hoping that moving forward it will be, I don't know, I'm not sure where it's going with that. It's just kind of like a day by day thing. But yes, as I've said many times before in the past, I do got something going on here, but as you can see, it's baby steps. And I guess you could say kind of the same thing for my backside as well. It's though I got something going on. It's do you got something going on here? It's with fat, do you got something going on here with fat redistribution and everything? It is still kind of I got something going on here, but it's taking time, baby steps. But those are really kind of just, though, always been 3 core areas where I've had a lot of changes. Really just been my face, my chest, and my keister. So I can't really say that I've had I can't really have had many major changes other than reduction in overall weight and physique in certain areas. Again, my arms, my legs, my torso. It seems like it really kind of generally just all around feels like I've just been losing it in the places where it's not, losing it in the places where I guess you could say it's necessary, and then getting it added into the places where it really counts. And again, those being those key places such as face, chest, and backside. Like, but I probably more progress in my face, but those areas especially are, though progress isn't a day by day, as a ongoing thing day by day. It is probably probably among the attributes that have definitely have made, I can say, probably the slowest amount of progress throughout my entire transition thus far. I mean, my hair, my overall physique, skin, all of those things have definitely, I can say, generally as a whole, have had probably the most extensive amounts of progress with my breast development, as well as my backside probably being among the lowest in terms of overall growth and change from, and that one from, again, that the beginning to now. But I think that's the beautiful thing, is like, again, that there is such a night and day difference between beginning and now. To be able to look back at my at pictures and videos of myself from multiple years ago, or even back as far back as early 2018, before I came out and started transitioning, just to see that night and day of just how much I have really changed over these many months, and now 2+ years, about to be fully 2.5, and soon after that 3 years, and so on and so forth. To see all of that change and all of that growth, really has made all the difference. And every day I look at myself in the mirror, or style, do my skincare, it's like wash my face, style and straighten my hair, put on makeup, put on one of my favorite outfits, or just however I choose to express myself. It all just feels more and more right, and just more and more better with each milestone, with each bit of progress that I make, because I feel more and more comfortable in my own skin, and more like myself. And at this current point, I mean, I feel comfortable enough to be able to stand literally before all of you, basically in little and very little clothing, and now explaining and breaking down just how much my body has changed on this journey that I've been embarking on for so long now. And yeah, look at, it's like then, and look at me now, and I couldn't be happier and with myself. But I think I pretty much covered all the general stuff, I feel. So hopefully that was as insightful and interesting for all of you as it was for me. So if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go get changed back, and we'll carry on with this. Just gonna step right back in here. So how was that, huh? Hopefully a lot more insightful and in-depth than really anything that I've done before. And my goal is to make that more of a regular thing, to just give, much like the updates in general, to just give more of those more regular in-depth updates, to really show just kind of what progress that I'm making going along with certain milestones. As well as just trying to do more in-depth stuff like that in general. I feel like this is, the tip of the iceberg, or the kinds of things that I would like to do to kind of just provide more of a in-depth and fuller picture, to just show the perspective to just show the inside perspective and experience of being trans, and all the interesting wonders that come with it. So yeah, that's definitely more stuff that I'd like to try to keep doing more and more in the future. So that's really sort of the big thing here. But before I go, I did want to close out with just kind of by just expressing my utmost amount of thanks and gratitude to all of you who have been watching, sticking around, and all of that good stuff. Even after, all of these months, last few months with my absence, just dealing, resting and recovering and dealing with other tasks, I've been, reading the comments that some of you have been posting, messages you've been sending to my social media, just keeping track of, just how how things on the channel have been going, and just seeing the progress that have been made, and just seeing the wonderful things that you've been posting and reaching out to me to say. I've just been put just so much of a smile on my face. Seriously, from the bottom of my heart, thank you all so much for your kindness, and your support and everything. Me, I'm just one person who just wants to share their experience, share their journey in the hope that it may help others in some way, shape, or form. And to see, that just continue to grow and progress and just making a positive impact of some kind with you and and many others out there. I I do appreciate all of you so very much, and I am happy to keep, happy doing what I do here, and will continue to be happy doing it moving forward. And it's, I mean, seriously, like, this one's for you. Thank you, just all so very much. And in the spirit of expressing, gratitude and being all celebratory, there is one individual I would like to shout out. Someone who's been a longtime viewer of my videos for some time and always posts very kind things on my in the comments. Holly, Jolly, Lolly, Molly. I just wanted to say thank you for reaching out to me. Even after all these months, I still have not forgotten about the very kind words that you sent me, as well as the absolutely wonderful artwork that you sent me as well. I'm not gonna lie. I seriously, I started like, I literally started crying when I read your email and looked at this wonderful artwork. I had never received anything like this, and I think and to just know that you put in the effort to create something that what I was saying, what I'm doing, just vibes and just had such an impact with you, that you put the effort in to create something so kind and something so expressive. It really just made me all melty, and I just thank you so very much for that. I wholeheartedly appreciate that. When I get the opportunity, I would love to print out your art and display it, and just thank you. So this one goes to you especially. Thank you, just from the bottom of my heart, to you, to everyone. Thank you all for being just so wonderful and for your continued support. Just with what I'm doing, is I do all that I can to keep spreading the positivity, the love, and the insight as best I can. Thank you all. And that is all I have for now. Again, thank you all so very much for watching. I really do appreciate each and every one of you. And I hope that each and every one of you has a lovely holiday celebration, whatever that may be. And I will be back come the new year. So until then, may you all be well and take care.